Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, yes, Friday all day, and welcome to Penn Vicarage. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well and cheerful, and thank you for joining us for our Bible reflection this morning, continuing our journey through the book of Proverbs. Before I start, may I apologise for yesterday. Not sure what happened. I think the sound went just after 3 minutes for some reason. Not sure what happened. If you were watching and you were disappointed by that, I'm very sorry. I have rebooted it, so if you go into yesterday's, you can see the whole talk from yesterday. But today we are in Proverbs and chapter 5. So without further ado, here he goes. Proverbs chapter 5. My child, be attentive to my wisdom, incline your ear to my understanding, so you may hold on to prudence, and your lips may guard knowledge. For the lips of a loose woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil, but in the end she is as bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps follow the path to Sheol. She does not keep straight to the path of life. Her paths wander, and she does not know it. And now, my child, listen to me, and do not depart from the words of my mouth. Keep your way far from her, and do not go near the door of her house, or she will give your honor to others, and your years to the merciless. And strangers will take their fill of your wealth, and your labors will go to the house of an alien. And at the end of your life you will groan when your flesh and body are consumed, and you say, "Oh, how I hated discipline, and my heart despised reproof. I did not listen to the voice of my teachers, or incline my ear to my instructors. Now I'm at the point of utter ruin in the public assembly. Drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. Should your springs be scattered abroad, streams of water in the streets? Let them be for yourself alone, and not for sharing with strangers. Let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer, a graceful doe. May her breasts satisfy you at all times. May you be intoxicated always by her love. Why should you be intoxicated, my son, by another woman, and embrace the bosom of an adulteress? For human ways are under the eyes of the Lord, and he examines all their paths. The iniquities of the wicked ensnare them, and they are caught in the toils of their sin. They die for lack of discipline, and because of their great folly they are lost. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, so similar to yesterday, we have the talk of a father sitting down with his son and giving him advice. Although it could just as easily be a daughter, I'm sure, in just the same way. But, it's my child, be attentive to my wisdom. And again, as yesterday, he gives them, he lays it out, listen carefully, listen up. Remember, just like Jesus saying, give ear, truly, truly, I say to you, listen to me, this type of thing. And, it says, my child. So here we have, in this reading, he's saying, my child, be attentive to my wisdom. Seek wisdom and listen, and you'll get, don't despise the reproof of your parents. Listen carefully here to what I'm saying. Listen to wisdom. And again, it's quite interesting because he contrasts throughout the whole chapter here the wisdom, the goodness that comes from wisdom, which is often described as a she, with a seductive woman. So again, you've got the kind of, he's making the contrast here between the good female wisdom and the bad seductress female here. So I think the use of the feminine here is really making it clear to the person listening that we have a choice of the good way or the bad way. And he's saying here, listen to wisdom. And one advantage, and yet another advantage of keeping wisdom, is that you'll keep your integrity, that you'll keep your prudence, that you'll keep on the right path. Because he's saying there are people who will come and lead you astray. So he sits down with his son. He tells him, listen up, listen to wisdom, listen to what I say. Don't despise the reproof here. Listen to wisdom, because there are two paths here. And another advantage of wisdom is that you'll keep the path of integrity. And then he goes on to the language again is quite interesting. He says, listen to wisdom, he says, so that your lips may guard knowledge, for the lips of a loose woman drip honey. He makes the contrast between between the lips of a wise person and the lips of a seductress, of a seductive person here. So notice here, be wise, because that way you can use your mouth to protect you as opposed to falling into the trap of evil. Okay, so keep wisdom so that you can use your lips, use your mouth to keep you on the right way. And again, he talks here about what happens to. He's used an example here of a loose when he says, for the lips of a loose woman drip honey, and yet in the next chapter, next verse, it says, in the end, she's as bitter as wormwood. And I think what he's saying here is that, a loose woman, a seductress, may come along, and what she may suggest and offer to you may seem very attractive at the time, but it's bitter, because think of the remorse, think of the regret that you get later, the hurt conscience and that type of stuff as well. And her speech is smoother than oil, yet it says in the next verse, it's sharp as a two-edged sword. So it looks all smooth and lovely at the time, but actually in time it causes all sorts of trouble. So notice the contrast here between, between the temptress here. Her lips may drip honey, but in the end it's as bitter as wormwood. Her speech is smooth than oil, but actually it's sharp. It's actually sharp as a two-edged sword. And he goes on, and her feet go down to death. She basically should lead you into serious trouble. So he's talking here about the importance of keeping wise, so you can keep faithful, so that you're not tempted away. Because temptation may seem attractive, it may seem good, but actually in the end, it will cause you problems. And particularly here in the context of marriage, people may feel seduced away, but in the end, it may look sweet, but actually it'll be bitter. It may look as though it's healing, but it's smoother than butter, but actually it's sharp as a two-edged sword, and it will lead to ultimate trouble, and it will spoil your life. So that's the first few verses. That's verses 1 to 6 are about the fact that, that there are temptations, and which may seem good, but actually can cause us trouble. Then in verses 9 to 14, it talks also about what happens if you fall into the temptation here, and all sorts of things. So, for example, in verse 9, he talks about your honor will go to others. So, for example, all sorts of people in the past who've been great business people or great heroes or whatever, but their private life has kind of destroyed all that. That's what they've got known for. When they should have had honor, they've actually ended up becoming dishonor. It also talks about in verse 10 about your strangers will inherit your strength. So you've been enticed away, and you got yourself into all sorts of webs of deceit and that sort of stuff. So strength that you should have had has been sapped away by strangers. Ultimately, in verses 11 to the end, he talks about what happens at the end of your life. They look back, and instead of looking back with pride and thanksgiving and didn't I live life well, it talks about, if only I had listened to what my father said to me, and it's looking back with regret. So that's what happens if we fall. So then again, so in verses 9 to 14, he talks about some of the reasons why you should stay faithful to your wife and stay faithful to what God's called you to, because actually, in the end, if you don't, as I say, you'll lose honor, you'll lose your strength, and ultimately you'll look back in your life with regret. But finally, there's verses 15 to the end as well. And this is what I like about this chapter. It's easy to say things like the Ten Commandments or can come across as rather negative. Thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal that. And it can come across as a whole load of thou shalt nots. And so far in this chapter, it's appeared a bit like that, don't commit adultery, because if you do, you'll end up, these are some of the dangers that will ensue. But what I like about the last few verses of this chapter is that he actually talks about the advantages of faithfulness. He talks about what a good thing it is to stay at home, what a good thing it is to be faithful to your wife. And actually some of the language used is straight out of the Song of Solomon. Well, may her breasts satisfy you at all times, may you be intoxicated always by her love. So he talks about the good thing, but actually he revels here in sexuality. He talks about how good it is. But it's saying, do it with your wife, enjoy the friendship, be intoxicated by her love. And the language here is beautiful, actually. It's not just, this chapter is not simply about saying, thou shalt not, it's actually about saying, stay faithful, because if you do, you'll be intoxicated in love with your wife, that you'll enjoy a faithful relationship, that your paths will be good, that you'll enjoy friendship and you'll enjoy love and that type of stuff as well. So what I really like about the last few verses of this, is that drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. Should your springs be scattered abroad, let them be for yourself alone. So enjoy what you've got. Don't always be looking at what other people have got. Don't be tempted away. Thou shalt not covet. Don't covet. Enjoy what you've got, and that way you'll enjoy life. So you've got three sections to this chapter. You've got verses 1 to 6, which kind of remind us that, life is, there are tempters out there. So keep wisdom. And by keeping wisdom, therefore, you will keep to the right path. Secondly, verses 9 to 14 tell us some of the dangers that happens if we do get tripped away, and especially if we get involved in adultery and that sort of stuff. Then verses 15 to the end talk about the advantages of enjoying a long, faithful relationship, and enjoy in beautiful, often sexual terms, borrowed really out of things like the Song of Songs, that type of stuff as well, about the enjoyment of love and sexuality with the wife of your youth. Except to say, and it's a great chapter. I just want to again remind ourselves, though, of the person that wrote it. And, of course, it was written by King Solomon, who, of course, may have said this to his son. But, of course, King Solomon himself was drifted away. He was taken in by all sorts of foreign women. We hear about that in the books of Kings and Chronicles and so on. And I think there's a lesson for us all, is that, and especially to those of us who preach and teach, to make sure that we practice what we preach, that we listen to the words that we say, that we stay faithful. Sadly, Solomon didn't, although he wrote these wonderful words. But we need to make sure that we do, that we need to keep gaining wisdom, that we need to keep being faithful, keep enjoying what we've got, and keep enjoying the path that God's given us. Friends, I hope that makes sense. I hope that's helpful. Do you read the chapter again in its three sections? Enjoy it again. Enjoy the book of Proverbs at your leisure. Have a lovely weekend. We have lots of lovely services at St. Bart's and St. Anne's this weekend. We have a wonderful worship band, and we love to see you. God bless you.